Hi everyone, it's Mary. Welcome back to the channel. So Spellbinders and Fun Stampers Journey are coming together 1 November, today. So I am going to showcase one of the stamp sets that they sent me, and this one is adorbs. So very easy. So these are the products that I got from the combined company, and I'm going to show you multiple cards throughout this video so that we could get cracking on our holiday card making. So each video, it's like cheater code. Each video I'm taking advantage of knocking out some more cards, because ideally I would like to make 200 to 250. I know you probably all gasped at that. I said it was a goal, and sometimes we don't achieve our goals, but I will do my very best. Okay, so I am going through some pattern paper that I have had in my stash forever. And if you've been watching my videos, you've been knowing that I really want to commit to getting down some of this paper. It's gorgeous. It's just, I love it, and I have to buy it every time I see it. That's my problem. And so on these cards, most of these cards today, I'm going to be using the pattern paper in one way, shape, or form. Okay, so I am putting aside and kind of matching up what card stock might go together, and then we're going to get started with our fun. So the first thing that we're going to do on this card is I'm going to use my anti-static powder tool, pull out my images here, and this one I will link, of course, below what this is called, but I want to say something like Christmas Magic. I can't remember, but it's so cute. And so you have your little elf hat and your little elf boots, and then the sentiment in the middle, believe in the magic of Christmas. And so I'm going to be using some VersaFine Clair pigment ink. Nocturne is the color, and I'm a huge fan of this. You've been hearing me rave about it. I love it. It's great for heat embossing. It gives a crisp, clear image, and so that's exactly what we're going to do. So this first card is going to be where I color directly onto the card panel. And I'm using Bristol Smooth cardstock because I am going to be using some Arteza clear, Real Brush pens. Big, huge surprise there. And then we're going to put some wow factor on the end of it. So for my coloring, I am going to take out my darkest red and outline that on the very ends, and then my bright red on the inside. And so then I'm going to pull them out together with a water brush. I do the same exact technique on all the images. The darkest of the red, I think that's called grape red, is going to be right where I think the most shading would be. And then I'm going to add that beautiful bright red there, which is, I believe, just called red. And then again, with my water brush, just kind of pull that out. And that's going to give me dimension, it's going to give me shading, and it's going to make the coloring more interesting, less flat. And so that's the goal, of course. I remember coloring as a child. My older sister, she would teach me how to outline. Like, all we would do is outline really dark around the image and some of those shaded areas in the image, and then color over it. And I loved that look ever since I was a kid. So now I'm just adding a little bit more of a technique to it by being deliberate with where I'm putting my shading and then blending colors together, as opposed to just harsh lines of outline. So I'm going to do the same here with the green, and we are going to color those up with the Arteza markers there as well. So I get those colored in, and then I'm going to heat set with some glitter red embossing powder the sentiment, because you need glitter on this card. It's just so fun. Now this panel alone, the way it is, would be just fine. And in fact, you could probably make multiples of that card. But because I'm an overachiever, I pulled out this Catherine Polar stencil, which I think is so much fun. And I am going to put this on top. And I'm using my magnetic mat, so you can see me just putting those strong magnets straight down. I made that mat underneath. I altered it. I didn't make it. I altered it to fit my needs. So there's a video in my channel if you want to check that out. But I am going to place some of this Nouveau glitter paste all over my panel. So a couple things here. The Nouveau paste it actually reacted a little bit with some of the red on the top, but if you'll notice underneath, I can't know if you see that, but I masked out the boots and the hat. So, but for some reason it still bled a little bit, and you'll see those in some of the still photos. It didn't bother me enough to throw this card out because I absolutely love the sparkle and the glitter that I got from this paste. It really did make it look magical. But I am just kind of filtering that back into my jar there, and then we're going to do the big reveal of. So I pull that off, and then I'm going to pull the masks. And what's cool about this is the masks are covered with the glitter paste, but then it dips down into the image. And so now the images are kind of recessed in the picture. So I really love the way that that came out. That was really cool in person. So hopefully the camera will kind of pick up some of that detail for you. So I love that card. That was so much fun to do. And then for this card, my final touches on it, it's dry now. I let it dry for a while. Final touches, I'm going to take some Nuvo Moon Dust, I believe that is the drops, and I'm going to add those to the bells on all of the images. So the hat, the shoes, all of it. And that will do it for that card. So here are a few close-ups so you can kind of see some of those details there. So fun. Okay, let's move into the second card. I am going to do some paper piecing. So if you don't know what paper piecing is, it's where you stamp out images on pattern paper and then you cut out the pattern paper around the image or the piece that you want. So if you'll notice, I'm stamping out the shoes and the hat on both the red polka dot paper and the plaid paper. I guess that's plaid or checkered type paper. And now I'm going to cut out my pieces the way that I want them. So I want the boots to be the polka dot red, and I want the little overlay of the boot to be this pretty plaid paper. And so that way when you piece them together, now it looks like one piece, but they are different. And I couldn't possibly color them that way, so that's paper piecing. So what I am going to do though is I'm going to stamp out my images on a panel so that I have some place to lay down my pieces and almost put them together like a puzzle. So I am going to line up everything where I want it, and I get everything stamped out. And once that happens, I'm going to start adding glue to my images. And then, like I said, just start piecing them together. This technique is so much fun. Like if you have images where people are wearing certain dresses or boots, or the images are, do you just want to break up the image a little bit, pull out some pattern paper and cut around them. It's so easy to do, it really is. It takes a little bit of fussy cutting and a little bit of kind of deliberation of where you want things to lie. But once you figure all that out, it really, really does come together. And it's funny when you're cutting them out. I don't know if you all feel like this when you're paper piecing. When you're cutting them out, you're like, this is not going to go, this is going to look like a hot mess because I'm chopping up my image completely. But it actually does. It works out. So, yeah, so give it a try. It's a lot of fun. And then here, I'm just showing you how I'm putting them together. I'm pulling out some tweezers because my fingers are just a little bit too big to kind of get some of that placement exactly where I want it. And so I'm using my reverse tweezers, I guess you could call them, to hold the image for me while I add it to the block or to the picture. So I'm using this is Nuvo glue in this little applicator here. I love it because Nuvo glue hardly ever blocks up on me, but then also that applicator works really nicely because when you put the cap on, it puts a needle through it, and so it keeps it from clogging. And I love Nuvo glue. It's got to be one of my favorites. So on this one, I'm pulling out this Hero Arts Ombre ink pad, and it really is the best choice I could have made because I wanted something with flair, and I didn't want to reuse the glitter red embossing powder again, but I wanted something to be interesting and not just a plain color, which would be fine as well, but this is exactly what I was going for. So I stamped it out 3 times to get a nice crisp image. You can notice that ombre for that sentiment is lighter at the top, dark at the bottom. Love those. I love Hero Arts ombre inks. They're awesome. So then I'm going to use some more pattern paper, and I'm going to place my panel straight down on there. Now remember, these 3 cards, I'm highlighting pattern paper here, so it's making it a lot of fun to use some of that up. I ignore those bells. Those bells I wanted to put on the card, but they were ginormous, and I couldn't make them work for me. If I had tinier ones, I could make them work in a card, but just not this one. I think the dimension was a little off. But I did use gold Nuvo drops for that. Okay, so here's some still photos of those cards as well. Okay, let's move on to the next card here. So I am going to stamp out my images on some black cardstock, and I'm using Versamark ink, and I'm going to use some superfine white embossing powder to heat set those. So I am doing both the hat and the boots. So I love this stark look, this very dark contrast from what I'm doing and how we're going to place this on the cardstock. I am going to fussy cut all of these images out in super warp speed, which if I had a crafty superpower, it might be fast fussy cutting. I could fast fussy cut probably, but it would look like trash. So that would be a great superpower. So I'm going to cut these down with some stitched rectangle dies, and I am going to get this all set up. So right now I am heat embossing the sentiment in silver, which at the right angle is so bright and so just so fun. I am going to place down my images using some foam tape, and I am going to pretty much call this one done. This is going to be backed on a few different pieces of patterned paper, and really the final touch that I do is add some Wink of Stella to some of those areas of the image, and it's going to just brighten that up and sparkle, and then that's going to be basically it. So you'll notice here I do something terrible. Wait for it. It's coming. Oh, goodness gracious me. How terrible. It globbed out because I had not burped it on a separate piece of paper like I always do. Yeah, so I had to scoop that up, and I believe I saved it pretty well, but I scooped it off, wiped it up a little bit, and then I went back at it. This pearl pen is amazing, and the shimmer and sparkle of the metallic look from the pearl pen is so great. But just make sure you burp it off separately onto a different scrap piece of paper. All right? So, okay, so I get that done, and then I am going to give you some still shots here, and we're going to move on to show you some of the final things I did with some of that ephemera. Okay, so lastly of the things that they sent me, I have these awesome little coffee cups, which I know so many coffee lovers in my life. And so what I did was took some of the scrap pieces of pattern paper, and I just cut them down and made a little focal point here for the cups to sit right in the center. And these are clean and simple cards. I backed them on some red and blue cardstock that I had, and then on my card bases. So very, very simple, and I got 5 or 6 cards out of those. So it'll be cute little, you know, things to pass on during the holidays. So I'm cranking them out, people. I'm getting that goal met. I will tell you at the end of this holiday season if I was able to make 250 cards. And please don't be disappointed if the answer is no. All right, so there you have it. Thank you so much for joining me and this celebration of Fun Stampers Journey and Spellbinders coming together into one area of amazingness, of places to buy all these great quality products. I had a lot of fun today. As always, I will list everything I used below, and don't forget to find me on other forums like Facebook and social media. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything from me, and we'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.